Hello. Today I am talking about how mindset really has the power to impact your life in a huge way. In fact, it does already. You might not even know it. When I was going through a really tough time in 2009, I was actually battling anxiety disorder and panic attacks. And, going through that, I had the opportunity to really figure out what kind of an impact thought makes on your everyday life. You see, anxiety is something that is caused from looking at the future. Depression is usually caused from looking at the past. And it's pretty hard to stay in the present when you can't be there. Fear is another thing that really shows up that has the power to distract you and focus on what you don't want rather than what on you do want. So it is super important when you are wanting to set a goal or achieve something, you pay really close attention to what you're thinking about, because feeding fear is the quickest way to make sure you don't get to where you want to go. You don't believe me? Think about it. When is the last time you tried to achieve something? Now, what was it that stopped you from getting it or slowed you down from achieving it? If nothing stands in your road, I don't know, go find another video to watch, because this isn't going to make any important impact in your day. But for most people, you can think of something where your challenge, when you think about it, it's creating some fear, it's creating some resistance, and it takes a little bit of time to get over it, because you see, the biggest challenge isn't actually the challenge. In most cases, most challenges can be fixed pretty quick, but it is it is getting to the place to decide to make change that seems to take forever. Have you ever had that in your life? I remember one time I had been in the corporate world for a really, really, really long time, like 2.5 decades, which might not be a lot for some, but it was a hell of a long time for me. And I wanted to make a change because I knew that I wanted to do something different, but there was a ton of fear that came up. Okay, number one, how are you going to pay your bills? Back then, I had two kids that lived at home that I was responsible for, and they need to be fed. They need some fuel for their bodies and for their thoughts, right? I'm in the park right now. It's a motorbike, and I wasn't really coming up with the ideas that I needed in order to be able to make the change, because I kept on thinking of all the things that I had to do, all the things that I was responsible for, all the, oh my goodness, what if? Ever had that? What if it doesn't work? What if it does? And it took probably almost a decade for me to bite the bullet and actually leave the corporate world. And to be honest, when I left, I wasn't comfortable then either. It was just, I got to the point that I was so sick and tired of being sick and tired that I needed to make a change. Not that it was bad. I mean, I liked the corporate world. I loved the people that I met. That was part of the problem, because when you have those connections, you don't want to leave them. You get to spend more time with those people that you work with than you do your own family in most cases. And for the workaholics that are watching, I mean, you spend more time than the average, right, with people outside of your family. So it is really, really, really important to sit down and think, okay, what is it that's scaring me? Why is it scaring me? And when you can gain some clarity on that, then you can start working towards making the decisions that you need to make in order to go in the direction that you want to go. Make sense? Now, that's all easy to say. It's not quite so easy to do, right? And that is because mindset has the power to use fear against you. And when fear is working against you, it's difficult to push past it, because the woulda, shoulda, couldas and what ifs, they get louder instead of quieter. So, how do you really get fear to shut up? Well, you don't. But you do have the power to give it less control. So, when fear shows up, because it's going to, expect it. You can't. I tell this to my coaching clients all the time. All the time. Fear and comfort do not coexist. Think about it. If you're comfortable, that means that you know everything that's happening. There's nothing new. It's comfortable. Even when it's uncomfortable, it's comfortable because you know what to expect and what to do. Fear usually shows up with the unknown. So, unless you're really comfortable with the unknown, which I don't even know how that's possible, because people that are comfortable with the unknown are usually adventure seekers, and it's the adrenaline that they seek because there's that fear, right? Anyway, I digress. But if you're comfortable, you know what to expect. There's nothing new happening. If you're feared, it's because you don't know what to expect. So you're either going to stay with what you know or make a change. But whatever you decide, you either have to decide to stay the same or do something new, because you can't stay the same and do something new at the same time. Well, unless you invest more time, but then you're doing something different than you did before, so you're going to get a different result. It's the definition of insanity, right? Keep on doing the same thing over and over again, expecting the same result, and it doesn't work. they even put that in Wikipedia. So what I am trying to tell you is you don't have to do it all at one time. It's okay to take the steps to get there. And so that you're not biting off all the fear in one shot. That's a lot to take. And so if you're overwhelmed, it's important to be overwhelmed, but not to the point that you're frozen from paralysis of overanalysis, because you still have to be able to think and focus on what you want to achieve. That's pretty hard to do when you're distracted at the same time. So if you are really wanting to be able to make a change, the best way to do it, to keep your mind somewhat calm, is to do what you've been doing and slowly start implementing the new things that you want to do until you get to the point that you know it's time to make the change. And I also have this conversation with clients all the time. Every time I have made a really big decision in my life, every time I have made a change, I knew it was time. I didn't need to be convinced. I just knew. And every time that I pushed when I wasn't ready, it ended up being an epic fail. But when I knew it was time to change, that didn't mean that fear didn't follow me while I did it. I was still terrified, but I did it anyway. And when you know it's time, you will know. Expect fear to follow you, because it's going to, but that doesn't mean it has to cripple you. Make sure that you have a plan in place. Make sure make sure that you have done your due diligence and your homework, because jumping off a cliff without a rope isn't a good idea. And I'm talking bungee jumping, not bad stuff, but you need to have a safety harness in some way to make sure that if you're jumping, something's going to catch you. So always have a plan in place, make sure that you're safe, and make sure you're uncomfortable at the same time, because you need that change. I hope that makes sense. Makes sense in my mind, but I have also been doing it for a long time. So if you have any questions or comments, make sure to comment below. I'd love to hear your feedback. And if you ask me a question, there's a good chance I will make a video for you, and so that you can get some more clarity. Have a great rest of your day.